So in today's video, we are going to be discussing the new Netflix documentary, The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez. If you don't already know me, hi, my name is Christina. Whenever I was 21, I was sentenced to 3 years prison in the state of Florida. So I'm going to be talking about this documentary from the experience and the perspective of somebody that's been in prison, somebody that has seen what happens to people like this in prison with my own eyes. I'm also going to be talking to you guys from the perspective of somebody that has been through similar things that Gabriel went through. Please know that today's video is only for educational, and I hate to say it, but somewhat entertainment purposes only. Please remember to be kind to everybody, everywhere, in your everyday life, in your home, in the grocery store, and especially in the comment section down below. Please do not show hate to anybody, anywhere. Good morning, my lovelies, my beauties, my friends. My name is Christina and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you will subscribe, stick around, take a chance on hearing some things that I have to say. And if you are a returning subscriber, y'all already know, y'all are my babies. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? I hope you all are having an amazing day. So you guys have come at me by the thousands via DM, via comments and everything. And this show has only been out like less than a week about watching this documentary. So a couple nights ago, and let me tell you guys something. I am a mama. I am a businesswoman. So for me to sit down and watch a whole a movie at that, and I love to watch movies, but I'm always like doing other things. You know how it is when you're a mom. You're like, oh my gosh, well, let me just put this in the washer real quick, or let me just do this. Like, you're trying to multitask. I was glued to the television watching this. I actually stayed up till 1 o'clock in the morning, which I hardly ever do. And then the next morning when I woke up, the first thing I did was sit in bed with coffee and finished it. Now, this was a documentary that I did not allow my little one, my baby boy, Jaden, he's 8 years old, same age as Gabriel, which I did not allow him to watch. That's my personal parenting. That's my personal perspective. I did not want those images or even the talks of that in his mind. But it was such a hard watch for many reasons. Now, I already filmed this video and I did it more of like a trying to do a story time with leaving certain things out and trying to give you guys, but I just, I was trying to edit it and it's just like, my gosh. So I'm going to be talking to, I decided to redo this. I decided to just do this as me talking to you guys and the assumptions that you guys have already watched this documentary. If you have not, I suggest watching it, but please be warned, it is a huge trigger warning. They're very graphic when they talk about things. They show a lot of photos and they go into all kinds of detail. So I'm just going to talk about this from my perspective instead of versus telling the story. Like I said, it was a very hard watch for multiple reasons. One, to see any child go through any kind of mistreatment, whether it be physical or emotional. Emotional can be just as damaging. I know for me as a child, the things that I went through, I would have, and I hate to say this, I would have much rather had somebody hit me than say the things that they said to me. And I've told you guys, if you have watched any of my videos and anything that I've said about children, be careful the words that you speak to your children. It does become their inner voice. The things that you say to your children are the things that they say to themselves when they're by themselves. The voices that they replay over and over in their mind. So do not by any chance underestimate the emotional part of parenting versus just the physical part, okay? So watching this and seeing this little precious baby boy and the things that he went through and the things that his, and then also seeing the parallel and the similarities to the things that I went through. And this is not to make this about me, but this is more of the fact that I could relate to a lot of the things that this baby boy went through, and it infuriated me. It's one thing for me to know I went through something, whatever, but it's another thing for me to see another child going through the same thing I went through and worse. It was devastating to watch. It was like watching a freaking train wreck happening and nobody pulling the horn, nobody hitting the brakes. If you guys have not watched my kidnapping video, go and watch it and you guys will understand why my perspective is this way. But he was living with his grandparents, okay? He was living with his uncles. He was living with family that loved him. And they said, this was this precious little boy, okay, that his mom had problems. His dad was in and out of jail. His dad was, you know, doing different things he shouldn't have been doing. And his mama had problems too. She was, you know, they didn't speak a whole lot about it, but we know she lost her kid, okay? And I don't know if she lost all of them at one point, but, you know, other people were raising little precious Gabriel. And they loved him. His grandparents loved him, his uncles loved him, and the mom decided that she wanted him back. Okay, so she came back to get him. And according to the documentary, I guess the uncles and the grandparents, or whoever it was at that point, they tried to fight it in court, but the court gave the mom the custody back of the son. And I don't know about you guys, but I know in the state of Florida, they're really big on the moms, like helping the moms out, which in a lot of aspects is really good. I have known personally friends that have slipped up, gone down a wrong path, tried a substance, gotten, you know, whatever, got in trouble and gotten their life back, taken parenting classes, done what they needed to do, and now they are like the best parents ever, okay? So it happens, and I definitely love that we are give a mom a second chance type of state, right? But in this case, everybody failed this baby. Everybody did. The teachers, the social workers, the police department, you know, so many people failed this precious baby. And it was just watching it was like, we need change. We need change everywhere in a lot of different areas. And I really hope that this documentary is a huge wake-up call to our community, to the United States, to the whole entire world. So when the mom got Gabriel back, she also had two other children, another little boy and another little girl, and she moved him into an apartment complex with her boyfriend. Now her boyfriend was about 6'2", 270 pounds, big dude, okay, big strong dude. He was a security guard, you know, big old strong dude. For whatever reason, mom and boyfriend decided that little precious 8-year-old Gabriel was public enemy number one. Now, in this documentary, they gave a bunch of different reasons to why he was getting punished. Different things like he was a liar or he was a bad kid. And that really irritates me. Don't ever call your child a bad kid. Don't ever do it. Don't ever use that freaking lingo, dude. Please don't do that. When you talk to your children, you can say how the things that they, you know, you're not making the right decisions. You can, but always, in my personal opinion, always use positive reinforcement with any kind of discipline. You always want to harp on the positives and not the negatives. You do not want your children believing that they're bad, that they're wrong, that they're terrible, that they're spoiled, that they're brats. Don't talk to your children like that, okay? You can say, you know, you're acting ungrateful. The way that you're acting is ungrateful, but I know that you're grateful. I know that you love this. I know that you love your home or whatever it is that you're talking about. Always make sure you use that positive reinforcement. That way when your child walks away, they don't go, I'm bad, I'm spoiled, I'm grateful. They go, you know what? I do love my home. The way that I was acting was like this, but I am like this. I am a good child. I am a loving child. I am a smart child. I am a smart John or Mary or Susan or Keisha or Jacob or whoever the child is. But the way I was acting was not like that. You want them to, with the things that you say to them, you want them to be thinking, okay, I'm off on a tangent, but this is such a freaking to me. So they decided that Gabriel was a bad child. For whatever reason, they picked on him. They locked this baby, and I cannot tell you guys all of the details, and I'm not going to post pictures. If you guys want to Google and see pictures, if you watch the documentary, you can, but I just cannot bring it to my heart to show you guys these pictures. It's just so difficult. So they lock him in a cupboard. They beat him in the most unimaginable ways, and ultimately it ends in his death. Now, the times that they were beating him, it was reported. This little baby boy was going to school with black eyes, busted lips, cigarette burns in his head, hair missing. And the teacher kept reporting it, and the flip-flopping DCF agents or Child Protective Services would go out to the house. The mom would say, oh, he just fell. Oh, he's a liar. I didn't hit him. And the DCF agents would go, oh, okay, you know, all right, well, whatever. And then they would go off. There was even one point that one of the DCF agents closed the case and wrote on there like 30 days ahead of time to go ahead and get the case closed and over with while this little baby is being tortured. And that's exactly what it was. He was completely tortured. The day that he lost his life, this whole documentary starts off with a 911 phone call. And the 911 phone call is from the mother and the boyfriend, or however it went. And they're saying that he's not breathing. And when the paramedics and the fire department and everybody gets there, they see this little baby boy. And he's 8 years old, but he's a baby to me. My son's a baby and he's 8 years old. They see this baby laying there completely unconscious. When they took him, and they were shocked at his, you know, appearance. He had burns all over his neck. His hands were completely swollen. His feet were red. His knees were completely swollen. He had BB gun pellets embedded in his skin. He had burn marks all over him, all over his face. His eyes were swollen shut. He had lesions like where his skin was missing on his neck and all over his body. And it was like, what happened to this baby? Oh, he fell. Oh, he was playing. When they ended up taking the baby to the hospital, and then they had to transport him to a children's hospital where he then later died. He did not make it. He did not pull through. They had him on a ventilator for, I think, 18 hours, and then they ended up taking him off because he was not going to be okay. The autopsy showed so much, more than even what could meet the eye. They said this baby boy's skull was like Rice Krispies. It was completely fractured and all over. And he had kitty litter in his stomach. He did not even have any fat reserves. The only thing he had was kitty litter in his stomach. If you guys watch this, you know that the mother and the boyfriend did go on trial, and he was found guilty. He took it the whole way through trial, and he was sentenced to the death penalty. And then when she found out that he was sentenced to the death penalty, she kind of freaked out. She took a plea bargain for life in prison without the possibility of parole and without the possibility of appeal. So she has no chance of getting out, and she's not going to get out, okay? So now that you guys know the story if you're watching this. So now I'm going to talk to you guys about it versus my experience, and then also versus what I think is going to happen to them in prison, okay? From somebody that's been in prison, from somebody that's seen that. As far as my experience, like I said, it was hard to watch because I saw so many similarities from what happened to me. It was my mom's boyfriend, okay? She came and took me from other family members. Same exact thing, okay? I was locked in a bathroom. I did have a lot more room than what this little baby was in, but I was locked in a bathroom, and I was beaten at it. You know, I've had my arm broken. I've had my hands burned on the stove. I had my back of my head split open. My mom did save my life by taking me that last time and dropping me off in a hospital. She left me there. You know, nobody knew who I was. Here's this little kid beaten half to death, completely traumatized in a hospital with no family, no nobody, no nothing. And I made it. Here I am. I'm 35 years old. I'm very blessed. I made it through. But this little boy, nobody took him to a hospital and dropped him off. And he just wanted to be loved, dude. He loved his mommy. If you guys watch a documentary, you saw that, like, the teacher who did what she thought was best. I couldn't have been that teacher. I could not have been that teacher. There's no way in the world I would have let him leave my classroom. And I know some of you guys are going to say it's easier said than done. No, I'm telling you, because of who I am and my experiences and the way I feel, like, I'd have lost my job. Just like I tell you guys all the time, I could not be a correctional officer. I would probably lose my job. I would feel bad. I would try to help people. I would definitely give extra pads. I would definitely give extra toilet paper, and I would eventually probably get let go because other CEOs or whatever would be mad at me because I'm being too nice with the inmates. Okay, that's just what it is. I'm telling you guys, I know my limitations, and I'm telling you guys as a teacher, I know my limitations. And also watching this, if you guys don't know, the 4 social workers that had any involvement with this case were actually charged too. They were facing up to 10 years in prison. The charges did end up getting dropped. I don't know how I really feel about that. I'm trying to look at things from all perspectives, but I don't like it. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think that, okay, the charges got dropped, but they'll never forget this. So it probably taught them a big enough lesson. I don't know. But I'm telling you, and it really bothers me because any of you guys that know me and watch my videos, you know that I went to work to be a social worker. And I've said this in other videos before. I wanted to be, and I've literally said this, I wanted to be the person that went into the homes. I wanted to check on the kids. I wanted to do that hard work, right? But I can't do that because I made bad decisions whenever I was 21 years old. So somebody like me that would have snatched that baby, why didn't anybody talk? I want to know why none of those doggone social workers talked to Gabriel, unless they're not telling us. But they, like, why did they not pull him to the side or pull him to an investigation room whenever they saw burns in his head and both of his eyes blacked and the white in his eyes completely red because the blood vessels were busted in it? Why didn't they take him and, you know, examine his whole body? Why didn't anybody do that? Couldn't have been me as a social worker. And y'all I know there's gonna be at least one of y'all down that say you can't say what you would do in those situations. Oh yes, I can. Oh, absolutely, yes, I can. Oh, I know for a fact. And that's also why whenever I had my own, because when I wanted to do that for social work, I did not, at that time, I never wanted to have kids. But now that I have kids, I don't, like, oh my gosh, you guys. So much was wrong. So many people failed this baby. So many people did. And if you guys saw the part where it had the security guard, okay, I'll tell you guys this part if you guys didn't watch it and you're just listening to me to hear me ramble. At one point, the mom brought this little precious baby boy into, like, I guess it's a DCF area or whatever it is, children and families, whatever you call it, where you're at. And the security guard's sitting there at the desk and he sees her walk in and he's like, dang, like she looks like a gangster chick. Like he kind of got a bad vibe. I'm putting words in his mouth, but that, paraphrasing, whatever. And then he saw little baby Gabriel, you know, 8 years old, however he was at that time, all beaten up and bruised up and like hair patches missing and eyes all swollen. And he thought, dang, like what happened to him? Well, when they came walking out, he said she was walking first and he was behind her and he kind of pulled his shirt down, Gabriel did, and showed the security guard and was kind of looking at him like that and showed him how messed up he was. And that security guard thought, wow, like this kid's in trouble. Like, he's abused, like he needs help. So security guard goes up to the DCF worker and is like, listen, y'all need to report this. That little boy needs help. And she just kind of boasted that she's like, oh yeah, that's my department. You know, I do domestic violence. He was like, well, good. You need to do something about this then. So he goes back and sits at his desk and he gets a phone call from the people in the office, said, you know what? It's a Friday. They don't want to pay overtime. We're not going to report on this because we don't want to have to stay over and do paperwork. And he was like, what are you talking about? Like, this little boy is in trouble. And they're like, listen, they basically told him, you're the security guard, stay in your lane. They don't want to pay overtime for us to sit around and do paperwork. I'm not reporting it. I want to know what happened to them. Did they get any kind of did they get reprimanded or something? Are you kidding me? Why are you in this field? Like, you can't make a phone call. Even if they don't want to pay overtime, you can't make a phone call? Like, ugh. So he reported it, and it actually showed the 911 phone call where security guard called 911 and was like reporting it. And the cops go out to their house at like 2 a.m. because the cops on the phone were basically like, yeah, we'll get to it, whatever. I mean, they didn't say it like that, but you know, they went out at 2 a.m., knock on the door. She answers the door and she's like, he's fine, while he's literally locked in a cupboard in there, like beaten and starving. Like, what? Why did we not ask to see the little boy? Where, you know, I don't get it. I don't get it. And then that poor security guard said within a week, he reads the paper and sees Gabriel's face. He had passed away. You know, like, it's infuriating. I'm sure all of y'all that watch this are completely feeling like I am. Like, how? I'm sure y'all want to know what is going to happen to them in prison. Well, we know boyfriend, 6'2", 270-pound man that wants to hit a little 8-year-old in the head with a baseball bat. We know what his sentence is. He is sentenced the death penalty, okay? Her, I can guarantee you, she's feeling it in there. If it ain't from the, you know what? And I bet you she felt it when all this was going on, the trial and everything. But I bet you it is revving up again now because of the documentary. This documentary is viral. People are seeing it everywhere. I think when I saw it on Netflix, it said it was #2 in the country. Like, people are seeing this. So forever, they probably got her in solitary confinement. I wish there was a way I could call up there and find out. Because I'm telling you what, I've been in prison and I've seen the way people treat child abusers. You've got women in there that can't see their kids, and then they see you come in there and you've done this to your child. I told you guys the story about that woman. I've talked about it a bunch of times. That woman and that husband or whatever that did all this stuff to these foster and adopted kids. They locked them up. They did all this crazy stuff. The officers were abusing her. Okay, they had her locked. They had her in confinement to keep her away from the inmates on Lowell compound. Because see, Lowell is like the biggest, baddest women's prison in the state of Florida. Okay, but everybody goes to Lowell. And the inmates were beating her up. She was an older lady too. Beating her up, taking her stuff, doing all kind of crazy stuff to her. So they had to put her in confinement to keep her safe. When they put her in confinement though, the officers were abusing her, not feeding her, giving her air trays. If you've watched my videos, you know what an air tray is. It's because the cameras show down the hallway, so they put an empty tray there so it looks like you're feeding her. Can't get in trouble. If she reports it or does, there's nothing she can report. There's nothing she can do if she's in confinement. But if she writes or calls, like, they're going to say, pull the footage. I gave her food. Nobody's going to know whether she had food or not except for that officer and that inmate. So it's the officer's word against the inmate's word. And who are they going to believe? The officers. So they were giving her air trays. They were doing all this crazy stuff to her because of the stuff she did to those kids. And those kids didn't lose their lives. It was still horrible, and I'm sure they still have trauma to this day, but they didn't lose their lives. I can only imagine what's going on with her in there right now. I can guarantee you she's feeling it. It don't take but one officer, okay, or one inmate to know your story that they're going to get you. She's going to have to deal with that the whole time she's in there. And him too. I could bet anything they've had their butts whooped a bunch of times by now, because they do not play that in there. Okay, if you are in there for hurting a child in any way, it's on and popping in the prison system. It is. I cannot tell you guys one situation where there's been somebody in there that's hurt a child that had a bunch of friends and had an easy sentence. I can't tell you. I can't tell you of one person. When you hurt a child, all bets are off in there. People don't play that. So if you want to know what's happening to them, I can guarantee you they're either in solitary confinement, which I think death row inmates are. Death row inmates, I believe, I don't know how it works in California, but I think that they are in solitary confinement, which is torture in itself. Y'all know, I done told y'all about, if you guys have never watched my videos, watch my solitary confinement videos. That is mental torture. And to think that he has to sit in there and think about the things that he's done and know that he is sitting in there just waiting to die. Which brings my next question to you guys. I want to know what y'all think about the death penalty. Do you think it is a moral thing, yes, or it is unmoral? Do you think it's justice being served, or do you think it's unjust? I took a voting poll over on my Instagram. If you guys are not following me on my Instagram, you should be. And I want to say it ended on like 58% to 42%, or maybe it was 52 to 4. I think it was 52 to 48. So it was almost like half and half what people thought. A lot of people thought, yes, we should have the death penalty, and a lot of people thought that we shouldn't. And then I asked you guys why, and a lot of you had a bunch of different opinions. And I want to say I had a lot of people that said something about like an eye for an eye leaves a blind world. I'd never thought about it like that. If it's an eye for an eye, then you're blind. So, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you believe in it? Do you not believe in it? Do you think it was just in this case? Do you think it was not just in this case? Do you think they got a fair sentence? Do you think they deserve a second chance in life? What do you believe? What do you think? I want to know. All right, guys. Sorry if you guys don't like this like rambling, like rant video, but it's just so infuriating. And if you guys watched the show, it showed 2 weeks after the trial was over, there was a 10-year-old little boy who went through the same thing. Man, this has got to stop. You have to be a sick person to hurt a child like that. And if any of you guys are watching this and you're even wondering if your parenting is right or if you're hurting your children, get some help. There's so many ways that you can get help now. There's BetterHelp, there's online stuff, there's doctor on demand. You can go into therapy, you can go into churches a lot of the time. A lot of the time churches will do free therapy, free counseling. Get some help. It's not worth it. Children are innocent. Children are so innocent and they're just trying to learn and navigate their way through life. And if a lot of times, if you feel like your kid has a smart mouth or they say certain things or they talk certain ways, reevaluate the way you talk. Reevaluate the way your husband or your wife or your family members that live within the home, they talk or the way that they act. And if you feel like everything there is great, then you need to reevaluate what your children are watching, seeing, and hanging out with. Kids mimic what they see, okay? Make sure you're being a good example. Make sure you're doing the right thing and you're loving your children. Children are really, really innocent and impressionable. We got to do better, guys. Ugh. All right. As always, my loves, thank you so much for watching this video. Please do not forget to like it. It's a free way that you can help your girl out. And until next time, I love you guys so very much. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.